If you ask the average casual space fan, they would tell you that ventures into the cosmos are prohibitively expensive. Thanks to public statements and accounting summaries from space agencies like NASA, however, while the superpowers were splashing the cash in all directions, some emerging but equally ambitious countries were trying to find the smartest ways to venture into space on comparably shoestring budgets. The following video, we will also zoom in on a space agency that is turning out to be a real-life case study for true spacefaring efficiency. Let's get started. It's impossible to speak about the dawn of space travel without talking about the US and Russia. Locked in the famous space race, these two rivals/collaborators are by far the leading innovators when it comes to exploring the heavens and beyond. The Soviet Union launched the first satellite, sent the first man to orbit, and sent probes that helped us get a clear picture of the conditions on Venus, just to name a few things. The Americans sent the first man to the moon, sent probes to explore the outer reaches of our solar system, and built two of the greatest in-space telescopes that literally allow us to see the past. Again, these are just a very select few highlights. When they weren't competing, America and the Soviet Union, now Russia, have collaborated on mega projects like the International Space Station, ISS.
Decades, Russian and American astronauts have worked side by side in orbit. Now, amid war and sanctions, Russia is threatening to pull out of the space station within a few years.
Space stations have been invaluable for understanding the requirements and effects of extended stays in space. To date, the two nations have conducted countless space launches, with hundreds of crewed flights between them. As of the 23rd of March 2024, there have been 383 human spaceflights since Yuri Gagarin reached orbit. Of that total, 179 are NASA flights and 159 are Soviet-Russian flights. China, whose first crewed mission was in 2003, has had 12, while private companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic have 33 between them. Remember, these are just crewed missions. Russia and America also lead the way significantly when it comes to launching satellites, orbiters, and probes. The inefficiencies. Naturally, such dominance comes with tremendous costs. While Soviet financials are difficult to come by, we know that present-day Russia's annual spending on space programs has ranged between $354 billion since 2019. NASA's spending is much more notorious. The American agency famously spent over $25 billion on the Apollo missions.
Mission. Right away, Houston. Vector grid. X5.
Which ran between 1960 and 1973. That translates to about $257 billion, or $19.7 billion per year in today's dollars. The Space Shuttle program cost $196 billion in total, while the James Webb Space Telescope ended up costing $10 billion by the time it was launched in 2021. After the end of the Space Shuttle in 2011, NASA had no spacecraft to take its astronauts to space. The only choice was to rent seats aboard Russian rockets, at an incredible $86 million per seat.
Space mission could be the last of its kind. This Russian spacecraft, with an American astronaut on board, landing safely today at the International Space Station. NASA says it was...
Between 2010 and 2011, NASA shelled out $4 billion for flights to the ISS. The emergence of SpaceX's Crew Dragon helped NASA escape Russia's exorbitant seats, but the agency still pays around $55 million per seat. Indians and idiots. Exactly 1 month after Neil Armstrong stepped foot on the moon, leaders of India were still riding the wave of inspiration the world felt from the achievement. On the 15th of August 1969, the Indian Space Research Organisation, ISRO, was born. This somewhat baffling move was widely criticised by many voices in the country. After all, India was a developing country that was still struggling to feed and educate its people. What business did it have spending money on missions to the cosmos? Despite the questions and critiques, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's government persisted with ISRO and armed the new agency with $1 billion for a start. For context, NASA's budget for 1960-70 was $40 billion. Just how would they hope to compete? Well, for starters, ISRO employed a concept that Elon Musk has now coined an idiot index. In a nutshell, ISRO observed the whats and hows of American and Soviet space agencies and devised ways to do the same, but at a fraction of the cost. Where NASA used ferries, trains and haulage trucks to carry components, India used jeeps and ox-drawn. The Indians even used bicycles to transport smaller rocket-building components. Where the Soviets had tens or even hundreds of thousands of clerks, technicians, engineers, officers and administrators, ISRO employed a crack team of about 3,000 employees. ISRO also had a strict policy of developing components and resources in India. Foreign contractors, especially in the private sector, were generally regarded as a threat to cost efficiency. By 1980, the hard work paid off, as India became the 7th country ever to launch a satellite into orbit. The Rohini series, Y satellite, paved the way for more satellites that hauled the nation from the dark ages of poor telecommunications and weather forecasting. Today, India is still the shining example of efficient space programs, spending just under $2 billion annually. ISRO pays much lower salaries than its equivalents in Europe and America, and still adheres to the in-house development approach, though not as strictly. The agency spends about $15 million per launch, which is pretty much pocket change compared to the $67 million NASA pays to SpaceX.
Space Shuttle Discovery returning to the space station, paving the way for future missions beyond.
To date, India has sent 144 objects into space, making it the 7th most prolific nation by this metric. Only France, Japan, the UK, Russia, and the US have launched more objects. India even sent an orbiter to Mars back in 2013 at an incredibly low cost of $74 million. Of course, the cost cutting has had limitations. For starters, ISRO has yet to conduct human spaceflight. Secondly, ISRO still launches relatively small payloads compared to the big three of China, Russia, and the US. It seems the next step for India is to loosen the purse strings and collaborate with foreign space agencies and companies. However, given where India's space program began, the sky is literally the limit for this incredibly resourceful nation. One wouldn't bet against it coming up with even more creative solutions to keep up with the big spenders. On that note, we've come to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed learning about one of the less heralded space programs around. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave a comment and share your thoughts about this video or what you would like to see in the future. Thanks again, and bye for now.